It's easy to get lost in kind of the psychological chaff, for lack of a better word, where people become hyper fixated on the theories and the thoughts. And today I'm going to teach you guys a really quick lesson on exactly what the social needs are. And then we're going to go into the practical skills of how to actually use needs on a day-to-day basis. What are the social needs? The social needs, simply put, are how a human being wants to feel within the context of a social situation. It is not seeking to be a broad philosophical or psychological model that describes everything that a human being is. If we manage teams of people, for example, this can be an absolutely critical skill set that allows us to connect better with our team members and give the members on our team what they need in order to feel motivated, in order to feel valued at work. It can allow us to gain better relationships with our friends as we see past their ego and past our own needs and understand the deeper implications of how somebody really wants to feel. The social needs are this. We have first acceptance, we have approval, we have intelligence, we have significance, we have strength and power, and we have pity. This model is not built to be perfect. It is not to say that this is the comprehensive thing without any exception. What this is it is an extraordinarily effective model that can describe way above 90% of the population in terms of how they want to feel in different social situations. And something that's really important to understand is this doesn't mean that you are the thing. To be a strength and power need does not mean that you are strong and powerful. You could be a small, short, weak, frail person who is obsessed with feeling as though they are in control, feeling as though they are dominating a situation, and feeling as though they have power over a situation. Now, we have intelligence. You want people to see you as smart and as knowledgeable and as understanding how things work, even if you don't want to admit it. It's something that most people are going to have a difficult time admitting to others, which means if you just go up and ask someone, hey, it seems like you really want to be seen as smart by others, they are not going to admit to that at all. And that's an important thing to remember as you're learning this skill set. Another huge thing that holds people back when they're gaining real skills with profiling needs is diving too far down the intellectual rabbit hole. They start to make all of these logical extrapolations of, well, I saw this and I saw this thing, and maybe it could mean that if you perceive it from this angle and look at it from this one Taoist teacher that I learned from. If I just asked you, hey, does it feel to you kind of like this person wants to be seen as kind of like the glowing, shining star in this room, and they love to be the center of attention? Do you get the general sense that that's who this person is and how they would like to be perceived in this group? You don't need to make it more complicated than that. It can really be that easy. And I find that when I'm training people and people are getting lost in the weeds or having troubles using this skill set effectively, more often than not, one of the biggest mistakes that they're making is that they are just over intellectualizing things and making it more difficult for themselves than it needs to be. They already know the right answer. They just need to kind of slow down, pump the brakes and say, hey, generally speaking, all of these intellectual and philosophical details aside, how do I feel like this person generally wants to be perceived by others? So once we're good at profiling somebody's needs successfully, and we can do this in a way that's accurate, the next part of this equation becomes giving someone a need complement, which is what is going to allow us to leverage that positive feeling of those endorphins and those neurochemicals and the serotonin and the oxytocin, all those things. And there are 4 rules to a successful needs complement. So when you're trying to frame a needs complement, you can think about these things, and you can also, if you do a need complement that doesn't work, you can use this as kind of a failure diagnostic to figure out what went wrong in your delivery of the needs complement. Before we look at these 4 rules, obviously we want to look at, did we profile the person's needs correctly? No doubt that's a super important thing, and if we didn't profile their needs correctly, no big deal. Go back to the drawing board, try again, and just try a different need. But if we did get the need correctly and we're relatively sure of that, but the need complement didn't land, it is going to be for one of these 4 reasons. Contextual relevance to the conversation. Imagine I walked up to you in a convenience store while you were standing in line and I just said, man, I am willing to bet that you are one of the most intelligent people in every room that you walk into. You would probably look at me like I was likely high on drugs or a crazy person. And you would be right to look at me like that, because that is a super weird thing to say to a random person that you just walked up to. And part of the reason why it's weird is that there's no contextual relevance for me to be making that statement. And that's an extreme example, but this kind of thing occurs in conversations all the time when people are learning these needs complements, where they're not basing the compliment on something real that actually occurred within the context of this conversation. So that's rule number 1. Is there a contextual relevance? Rule number 2 is don't be socially awkward or weird. Is this something that within the cultural, socio-normative behavior of this situation is acceptable to say? Is it a weirdo statement to say? Are you being a weirdo by saying this thing? This brings us to rule number 3, which is that the compliment should be a derivative of the need, not a direct statement of the need. And rule number 4 is that the compliment needs to be sincere, genuine, and delivered with true confidence and kind of unconscious authority over ourselves. If you're not doing that, the person is going to see through it almost immediately. If we're looking at someone with an intelligence need, a bad example of an intelligence need would be, you are so smart. That was a direct statement of the need. It was not a derivative of the need. Let's imagine that someone just finished explaining to me how something works. If you haven't guessed, intelligence people, like this guy over here, love to explain to you how things work. And let's say that at the end of this person explaining that, you say, man, I'm not always the best at understanding this kind of stuff. I'd always struggle to fully wrap my head around it, but something about the way that you said it just there really made sense to me. I feel like I can finally understand how it works. This, in my mind, is a perfect example of a needs complement. And the reason is that we gave it contextual relevance. It's not socially weird or awkward. We never said that they were smart. We inferred that they were smart. So it was an inference, or the statement was a derivative of being intelligent. Next is approval. If we see someone with an approval need, let's imagine we have someone that we work with and we know they're a big approval need when we say something along the lines of, I don't know that you probably get people telling you this as much as you should, but I just wanted to say I appreciate what you do at this company so much. I know that you really try and you really care. It really means a lot to me anyways, all of the work that you put in. This is a classic approval need. We might even just say, hey, by the way, that thing that you did earlier today, I just wanted to let you know you did a great job. That was incredible. Boom. Successful approval need delivered, and they will be happy as 2 peas in a pod. Next, let's move on to acceptance. So if we see an acceptance person, what might we want to say to them? We could say something like, you know, I really appreciate how much of a critical member of this team you are. You do such a good job every day keeping us together as a team. I just wanted to let you know that maybe people don't say it to your face, but even last week when we were at a meeting, everyone was talking about what a central element of the team you really are. Boom. Can be that simple. And if that person is an acceptance need, that will send them flying off to the races. Next, let's look at strength and power. Bad strength and power compliment might look something like, boy, you are a really strong and powerful dude, or you're a really strong and powerful woman. That's not going to work very well. I'm sure you could imagine the person feeling all kinds of reactants if you said something like that. So let's look at a good strength and power need. I am so happy that I'm your good friend and I'm on your side. Seeing how you deal with people that aren't on your team makes me really grateful that I got to be on your team. So instead of telling them what to do, because that's going to cause massive reactance, they're going to feel like I'm trying to control the situation, and it's going to give them a deficit of their need. I want them to feel their social need. So I might even just say, hey, I really value you as kind of a central leader on this team. What do you think's the right thing to do here? If you are good at communication, you can even frame that conversation in a way where you still arrive at the original solution that you wanted to occur in that situation, but you do it in a way that the individual you're speaking to feels like they have the power and control here. Okay, now let's talk about significance. The strength and power person wants to feel power and control, whereas the significant person just wants to be seen as important, as making a big impact. So the significance person will be very happy to defer control to someone else as long as they're still viewed as kind of the superstar of this scenario. So a bad example of a significance need could be, boy, I can tell you're a really important person. Or, you seem like a really significant dude or girl to me. Now imagine we said something like this. Man, the value that you bring to this company is like a shining light. Every day that you show up, it seems to inspire everyone else on the team to do better and to be a better version of themselves. Finally, let's look at pity. A bad pity compliment could be, boy, you really seem like you want people to feel bad for you, don't you? A good pity example, man, thank you for sharing that. That is really heavy. Honestly, I think it's incredible to me that you're somehow able to keep going. So this was a brief kind of introduction to the social needs. And if it's interesting to you to get real professional level skills at this, be in an environment where you can actually practice these skills with other like-minded operators or people just learning about behavior, and be able to get training from coaches and feedback and someone like me. We have online courses. I'm also hosting an event called the NCI 2 Behavior Profiler event. It's going to be taking place on May 7th to May 10th in Amsterdam. I would love to see you there if you are really interested in gaining true skills about this. We're going to be going through 3 days. The first day will be all about authority and confidence profiling and improving that in ourselves. Then we're going to go into psychological profiling, and then we've got a whole day learning how to master body language profiling. Not something that's for everyone, but if you do want to actually become one of the best in the world at behavior profiling, this is the most incredible place to start, where we can spend time together. I can work with you in groups, and we can actually get you real behavior profiling skills.